What's going on, defenders? Hello, Los Angeles. Hello, lovers of the black and gold. Hello, fans of Major League Soccer. Hello to the millions
and millions
of defenders of the bank listeners. This is another edition of One More Sleep, the preview before the beatdown. At least that's what we're hoping as LAFC starts its gauntlet tomorrow in Sandy, Utah against Real Salt Lake, followed by the sequel a few days later against Real Salt Lake, but this time in Los Angeles. My name's Christian Philemon, better known as Philly, and I was once known as the platinum-haired flamingo, but that's kind of going. Got to fix that up. And joining me on the other side of the interwebs, the gray-haired goose. We're all about birds on this show, defenders. I give you the mouth of the South Bay, Mr. J.R. Liebert, otherwise lovingly known as
the Scarf. What is good, y'all? Yep, it is Real Salt Lake Part 1 before we have Real Salt Lake Part 2 coming up in just 5 days. There's just only so much Real Salt Lake one can talk about in 5 days, but we're going to try to get it all out, not once, but twice over the next 5 days. Philly, if you're Sergi Palencia, you're celebrating tonight because you're making hopefully a little bit more money with a little bit more security. Otherwise, I don't know. Rest of the team headed up to Sandy, Utah. Going to look to get 3 points after getting 3 points in San Jose. We talked about how important these 3 points are. Now even more so with Miami putting a beat down on Seattle. Philly, a win tomorrow could mean sole possession of 4th place and a home game in the playoffs.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And if that threshold does get crossed, it's one that we're going to need to hang on to for our dear lives. Because again, top 4 host. The next set, they're on the road. But as LAFC is gone this season, I don't know if it really matters one way or another, because the last time LAFC lost on the road was April the 5th against the Houston Dynamo. LAFC's actually been really good on the road as of late, but obviously we want to play in our Fortress BMO Stadium, formerly known as Bank of California Stadium. But, I like our chances now considering how we've adjusted. We started off the season really poorly on the road. We were sitting on 2 wins for a long time, but the tides have turned. Quite honestly, we've been pretty darn good, albeit take FIFA Club World Cup out of it. LAFC's been really good on the road.
Look, speaking of FIFA Club World Cup, this match was originally scheduled for June 25th, not entirely Don Garber's fault that we're playing so many matches in such little time. This match, again, rescheduled after we made the Club World Cup. Obviously, match number 28 for us on the MLS season. After this one, just 6 to go. For RSL, this is match number 29. And for RSL, already 14 losses on the season, but they're still just sitting 1 point back and 1 spot out of the playoffs. But Philly, this is a team that does not score often. Just 30 goals in the West, the fewest number of goals scored by any club. They don't allow a ton, only 37 goals allowed, but LAFC's allowed fewer than that. It's going to take a pretty good effort for LAFC to crack what is sure to be another low block from RSL.
Yep, that goes without saying. And look, they've been better at home than they've been on the road. We're talking about RSL, of course. I wonder how much they missed Chicho Arango, because he was certainly scoring goals for them when he was on that team. Now they really are relying on the likes of the young Diego Luna for a lot of the offensive firepower. In fact, other than Diego Luna, there's no other player that RSL has that scored more than 3 goals, which is kind of wild. Several of them have contributed. Diogo Gonçalves has 3. Xavier Gozo has 3. William Agata. We forget Johnny Russell has 2 goals there, but I mean, he's only played in 10 games. But they don't have a great deal of scores. Diego Luna, for the most part, is the offense along with Gonçalves. Not a great team, but still within playoff contention, and they're going to be hungry to go up against LAFC, in particular when they bring in Son. And it should be a pretty good crowd, as has been the case anytime that LAFC's come in on the road.
Listen, it should be a good crowd, but it brings back a little PTSD, Philly, of our last road game. We have been very, very good against RSL in our club's history on the road. In fact, through 9 matches, we have 7 wins in Sandy, Utah on the road. But the last time we played them, that was the snow game, the baptism by not fire for one David Martinez, for Hugo Lloris. That snow game when they brought out the orange ball, it was an absolute joke by Major League Soccer. But you know what? Both sides had to play in it, and only one came ready to go. A 3-0 victory by RSL really gave LAFC some fits early on there in the season. It was a nightmare game for LAFC across the board, Philly. It's not something I want to go back and remember, that's for sure.
Well, we won't have to worry about the snow in Sandy, Utah come September. But I mean, as far as our record goes, I mean, we're 13-4-1 against RSL, but we haven't been very successful against them in our last 3 encounters. The last time we engaged in battle, it was a draw. Obviously, there was that time against the snow game last March. We got our butts handed to us. I mean, the last time we beat Real Salt Lake, you'd have to go back to August the 8th of 2023 when we thumped them 4-0, but I think they're ripe for a thumping because they don't score very many goals. They're a bit better on defense, but anything is possible in this crazy, crazy land of Major League Soccer, in particular on the road. I certainly like our chances. I think we finally break this winless streak against RSL, and for them, RSL is going to stand for really sucks losing.
Look, I hope so. For LAFC, of course, we have the 3 that we know will be out: Lorenzo De La Valle, Aaron Long, and Igor Jesus. A couple players come into this match questionable for LAFC. That would be Jeremy Abobasi and Nathan Ordaz. Could not find any information on RSL's. Philly, you got some info on RSL?
Yeah, I mean, Steve said during his press conference today that Nate's still recovering, won't be ready to play tomorrow, and neither will Jeremy Abobasi. So despite the fact that the media guy says questionable, Steve confirmed that they will not be in the 18.
All right, and then just to clear up, they do not play for RSL, just in case. Look,
yes.
I do have to mention one more player for RSL before we, Philly and I, get into our players to watch. I do have to mention a player who's played in 21 matches for RSL this season with 1 goal and 1 assist, a player who we might see come off the bench because he's approaching almost 1,600 minutes for Real Salt Lake this year. That would be Loyola Marymount University's own Noel Caliskin. Noel Caliskin is on Real Salt Lake playing significant minutes. The second time in a couple of weeks that I've been able to bring up an LMU player. We got all kinds of Hoosiers out there that Philly gets to talk about all the time. But I got my second Loyola Marymount University Lion. And with that being the case, let's start talking about 4 players who I don't think went to Loyola Marymount University. First and foremost, my players to watch. Every now and then I like
keeper
to
battle, really? Keeper battle? Oh, behave.
Here's why, Philly. First of all, only Rafael Cabral has played every minute this season for Real Salt Lake. No other player on the team has even appeared in every single game this season, let alone played every single minute. And you know what? It's getting towards the end of the season, and I think he might be getting a little tired. And he's got to face LAFC twice over the next 5 days. It is going to be a long couple of days for Rafael Cabral. He spent the majority of his career in Brazil playing with Santos and Cruzeiro. He's also played with Napoli, which was kind of fun to see for a little bit. But in his first season with RSL, he's played in all 33 games and all 90 minutes in every single one of those. And yet, in those 33 matches, just 6 clean sheets allowed. We mentioned they've only allowed 37 goals on the season, but he's only kept 6 clean sheets. So I think it's going to be trouble. And I think Hugo is ripe for a bounce back game. Yes, a bounce back game. I don't think he's very happy about giving up those 2 goals that he gave up in Santa Clara, California. So I think Hugo and the rest of the defense is going to rally together to try to get that clean sheet. It has been eluding him for a little bit now, and I absolutely believe that the defense is a little pissed off and that Hugo is ripe and ready for yet another clean sheet. So yes, I'm going to keeper battle. Hugo Lloris, and Rafa Cabral.
All right, fine. A battle of the goalkeepers. I'm going to do a battle of the goal scorers, because that only seems to make sense. For me, yes, of course, it's always going to be Denis Bouanga, riding such a high, couple of hat tricks in a couple of weeks, tying Carlos Vela's record of 93 goals. And yes, we are going to reiterate this. Yes, we are going to continue to mention it, because it's probably going to be a very long time before anybody else comes close to this milestone. These are big numbers in very short periods of time. 2 more goals separates Denis from being able to consider himself the only person in Major League Soccer history to record 3 straight seasons of 20 goals. That's going to be freaking fantastic. He's in the Golden Boot race. Yes, Surridge from Nashville did manage to score a bunch today for Nashville, but that was for the U.S. Open Cup, so that doesn't necessarily matter. Denis is in the hunt for the Golden Boot, and I think his teammates are going to continue to do what they've been doing. Feed him and let him run. The complaints, once again, about him taking too many shots, being too selfish, that's his goal. Nobody complains about Michael Jordan taking too much shots. Well, nobody does anymore because he's retired. Same thing went with Kobe. Same thing went with LeBron. Same thing goes with Steph Curry. You make them, you got it, and you keep going. And Denis is doing it yet again. So it would be foolish, naive, and quite honestly, effing stupid to not allow the man to continue to go out there and score goals. I say he scores, and then they celebrate on Carlos Vela night when they honor Vela, and obviously they're going to look to recognize Denis Bouanga for beating Carlos's record. He's on a streak, and he's going to continue to go on. Our offense still revolves around Denis, despite the fact that we have world-class talent like Sonny. When Denis goes, if and when he goes, then we could pass the rock over to Sonny. But for now, it still is Denis Bouanga's team. And as far as RSL is concerned, look, there's really one guy that really does it all, and that's Diego Luna. He's RSL's leading scorer thus far this season, 9 goals in the 22 matches. He leads the team in assists with 5. He's the kind of guy who's dangerous in transition, can easily take defenders on, find some space, and tends to make key plays when RSL needs them. Given the form that he's been in, if RSL are going to find the back of the net, Luna is the most likely source. Those are my 2 players.
I love it. Look, Diego Luna trying to get back in the good graces of the U.S. men's national team. He had a wonderful, wonderful little run there with the U.S. men's national team. It just hasn't been it for the last couple of matches for the U.S. men's national team, save that one match against Japan. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. Look, I've got a couple of keys to the match, and the first is to set the tone early. And what I mean by that is, when we play in Sandy, Utah, often Real Salt Lake likes to be a little bit more physical and assert themselves a little bit more in front of that home crowd at America First Field. I think LAFC needs to come out using players like Ryan Porteous, who we've seen bring a little bit more of a physical edge to things. The young Irishman, Andy Moran, that's going to be fun to see how he fits in the midfield. We know we're going to need a little bit more up top. If we don't have Nathan Ordaz and we don't have Jeremy Abobasi, that means we're relying in the last couple of matches with just 2 guys up top. Now, those just two guys up top are Denis Bouanga and Son Heung-min. So I think our chances are okay. But I think what we've also seen with Sonny is a little bit more of a physical player. He's much bigger than a lot of these guys are used to in Major League Soccer. So I think we need to set the tone early. And we need to know our assignment. And what I mean by that is, if we are going to play 5 men in the box, we need to defend our box a little bit better than we have been. These goals have been coming from deep inside our 18. We need to get our assignments right. And if that means a player like Hugo Lloris, who's my player to watch, or a player like Eddie Segura, or a player like maybe even Sergi Palencia, who got these great new contract, if that means these guys need to start calling out everybody else's assignment to make sure we're all on the same page so that Hugo can get back on his clean sheet streak, so be it. So we need to set the tone. We need to be a little bit more physical. We need to get out on the front foot early. And of course, know our assignments on defense so that Hugo can get back to those clean sheet ways.
Look, be honest with us. You're a teacher. Tell me you didn't come up with the idea of know your assignments while you were handing out homework today to those poor kids in math and Latin class. That's what you were thinking. Make sure you turn in your assignments. Boom, there you go. You had an epiphany while you were doling out unnecessary homework to eager young minds. Be honest.
Listen,
come on.
if you ask my students, all the homework is unnecessary. But that being said, I get a lot of great ideas, a lot of great inspiration from those kids that I teach. So yeah, it probably didn't hurt that they got a little bit of homework tonight. That's for sure.
You give them a lot of pop quizzes?
No, we're actually not allowed to give pop quizzes. I do give
Wait,
a lot of
why? Is that something that the school board found to be unethical for some reason?
No, the administration just doesn't love pop quizzes. But I'll tell you this. I do give a lot of quizzes and tests to give them a lot of opportunities to earn points as well. It's not just to be able to hammer them with a bunch of tests and quizzes. If you break it up a little bit, they tend to do a little bit better over the course of the year. So I tend to break them up into smaller bites.
All right, admirable, because I hated pop quizzes. But I just, I keep thinking the kids these days have it a little easier, other than the social media stuff. But then again, I am basically the character from Cobra Kai. I am Johnny Lawrence. I'm the kind of guy who still listens to 80s hair metal, would love to have a Firebird, and makes comments along the lines of, bullies, at least back in my day, had honor. If they had a problem with you, they would tell it to your face. Anyway,
I thought you were going to say you were just a big kid. That's for sure.
I mean, I am a big kid, and the fact that I get to still work in sports means I haven't grown up. It's fantastic. All right, my keys to the game, it's going to be high press and force RSL to play under pressure. If RSL, they got to force them to play from the back, in my opinion. You got to press that midfield aggressively. If LAFC can disrupt those midfielders of Brian Ojeda and Emeka Eneli's rhythm, that will really limit their ability to connect passes and initiate any kind of attack. And that really does reduce RSL as a threat. They're a team that likes to go through and generate attacks in transition, and LAFC can try to control the possession, but also hit quickly when the opportunity arises. They're not going to put pedal to the metal the entire game. We know that. But if they can use the pace on the wings or through balls in behind, players like Denny and Son can obviously stretch that back line. And that back line, not the greatest. So pressure them into forcing turnovers in the midfield, high press, and attack that way. That would be the key for LAFC, probably tomorrow and probably over the weekend as well.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be really interesting to see how LAFC approaches this. And I think you're absolutely right. We can't stay on the gas the entire game. But I do think we get out just like we did last game. Now, I'm not saying 3 goals inside the first 15 minutes, but I do think Philly's onto something when he talks about this high pressure, when he talks about forcing them to play out of the back. I think that while they have only allowed 37 goals on the season, I think they are ripe for a beatdown early. And I think what we could do is out of the gate, we get 2 goals early, hold that into halftime. And now RSL comes out of the gate. Pablo Mastroeni, who, by the way, just crossed the 300 matches coached number for Major League Soccer after playing 367 of them as a player. He was an excellent backline guy, so he loves to play from the back first. He loves to play those low blocks, and I think that's exactly what we will see. And it's exactly what his former U.S. men's national team teammate will be expecting in Steve Cherundolo. So I think Dolo has been working all week, the last 4 days, even before that, on how to break down Pablo Mastroeni's low block. And I think he's going to come out ready to do it. I think we get 2 early ones. I think we get another late one as RSL tries to open it up because, of course, if you got to get back 2 goals, you got to throw numbers forward. And that's where I think they're going to be in a little bit of trouble because they just don't have the horses that LAFC has. And I actually think we go back to those clean sheet ways, Philly. And this is an emphatic 3-0 win against a club that has only given 37 goals all season.
All right, that's fair. I don't think that they're going to be as successful. And here's kind of how I see it working out. LAFC will probably start off strong, press well, and believe it or not, I think they're actually going to dominate possession. They're going to get a goal from a buildup or on the wings, or could it potentially be even a set piece? Either way, Denny Bwanga is going to be one of those goal scorers. What's going to happen, though, is RSL is going to respond, and it's going to come by way of Diego Luna. Maybe a goal, maybe assist, off some kind of transition or something that we've seen LAFC do, and that's have a defensive lapse. If the black and gold can focus, hang on to that concentration, I think they will just barely eke or squeak or whatever eke you want to do. I think they're going to get the win, although it's not going to be as dominating of a performance. But Denny's going to get a goal, and I think Diego Luna is going to be part of this as well. 2-1, and we continue our unbeaten streak on the road.
I like it. And as Coog points out, the mythical money getting thrown around here, we do both like the over. The over is over 2 goals. It's like 2.5, 2.7, something like that. So, look, I do think LAFC is going to start peaking at the right time. I don't know that LAFC is going to catch many, if any, of those other teams in front of us, just because I think they're quality teams. And if they just lock down a couple more wins throughout their last few games, they could really make things difficult for us. But I think now that LAFC sees a path forward to getting that home game, to hosting that home game, and also getting the offense back on track, I think this is a very key stretch. We talked about these 4 matches in 15 days, beginning with San Jose on the 13th, ending with St. Louis at St. Louis on the 27th. And I think we need to get all 12 points in those 4 matches in order to do so. So Philly's got 2-1. I've got 3-0. More importantly, the forecast, as Philly said, does not call for the orange ball or any snow. And we're going to come right back in 2 days, talk about RSL's win, or excuse me, talk about LAFC's win. Yikes, I just put that out in the universe. Talk about LAFC's win, and then talk about RSL some more. Right, Philly? It's going to be.
Yay, I'm so excited. But I do believe with lunch, I do believe what lunch special Gio said here in the chat, we'll end up 4th place on the table. Yeah, I do think we're going to end up top 4, and I do think we're going to host. And speaking of host, for any of y'all who have Tubi, Tubi, and I thank LAFC activations for this. Tubi is another one of these streaming platforms that has a lot of great content, from when Scarf and I were kids and some more recent stuff. And I came across this horror flick with Panda called Host. Apparently it came out during COVID. We just watched it. It was about an hour long. It was, give it a shot. Don't read the spoilers or anything. Just give it a shot. They had a budget of $100,000, and personally, I think they knocked it out of the park. I pooped myself a couple of times, and it was a fun, enjoyable horror experience if you're into those kinds of things. The movie is called Host, and check it out on Tubi, Tubi, all for free.
And Philly was not paid to do that. So
no, I wasn't paid to do that. As a director of corporate sponsorships, I am very well aware of these things. So Tubi, let's chat, baby.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.